Yeah, so it's our first week of series called Righteous Revolutionaries, and I think Julius had a really good question for the
I
team.
did. I hope it's a really good question. But first, let me the definition of what a righteous revolutionary is, and that was by Keisha Wilkinson, who was up here with Pastor Brian on Sunday. And a righteous revolutionary is someone that is madly in love with Jesus, and as a result of that love, seeks to love others by making them aware of the freedom that God offers and fighting for justice for those who are treated like they are not image bearers of God. So
Man,
great
that's deep.
answer, yeah, from Keisha. And so when I think of someone who is a righteous revolutionary, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the first
Oh yeah.
person that comes to mind because he fought for people who weren't seen as equals, and he was really one of the major like players
Yeah.
to start this revolution where more black people were getting rights
Yeah.
and
Right.
yeah, being able to do certain things that they weren't before. So
Yeah.
that's someone who comes to my mind, and I'll turn it over to you. But for those that are at home watching, drop it in the chat and let us know who is your righteous revolutionary. And this could be a historical icon. This could be a personal family member, someone that you consider to be a righteous revolutionary. But what about you all?
Yeah, I mean MLK is like the original, like
It
Right.
is, yeah.
Well, and I love that he was not only advocate and an activist, but he really called out the church, and he really like made um, his platform centered on God, and like I
Yeah.
love that. I love that about him too. Like he was in prison writing, and still he was like, "Hey, church, we got to do better. Hey, communities, we got to do better." And I'm praying to God that we do. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, like,
Yeah.
love
No,
that.
that's. I mean, it's so many different people that I've been learning about, especially with like my kids going to school. Because I didn't like honestly in school growing up. That's really all we learned about was MLK.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you
Right.
learned you glossed over MLK a little bit. You might have heard about Harriet Tubman, and then that was pretty much it. I definitely speaking of revolutionary, um, even I did watch that movie, Judas,
And the Black
and the Black
Messiah.
Messiah.
Oh,
I
that was
watched that
good.
movie,
It was
and
great.
there was a certain part that interests me because it showed how how he stood for equality in a
Mm-hmm.
sense of
Yeah.
like because you're always made to seem like the Black Panthers were like the enemy in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, and they were
Mm.
so pro black that but what to hear him, there was a point where he walked into a room full of
The other.
full of white people with
Oh,
the
okay.
Confederate flag
Oh
up, and
yeah.
and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
he basically got on their level and was like, I understand
We're on the
that
same.
we all
Yeah.
have similar struggles, and I appreciated watching that and him to be like, we got to come together
Yeah.
and fight the real problem.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? So
Mm.
I appreciate learning about him and just a little bit of his story and how he stood even for even though that it kind of ended tragically for him. And but the fact that he was so young and he had this mind, but it was just I respect the way that he stood for the equality and how he knew that the issue wasn't he knew that there was a bigger issue.
Yep.
You
Right.
get what I'm saying? And he was like, the people that need to come together need to come together. We don't need to do the small fighting because there's a bigger issue that needs to
Mm.
be fought, and we need to do this together. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. And just because I am a revolutionary, kind of made me think of that. And
That's real, man. I
yeah,
like that. I like
Mhm.
that. Yeah, because you talking about him seeing the bigger picture, and it's like, yeah, he got all these different people from different backgrounds to come together. Because it's not like this; they weren't like a gang. They were helping people, and they're
right,
helping
Mhm.
people that were underrepresented,
Right.
right,
and they're helping families and children. And it's like you mentioned, they all had similar struggles. Didn't matter where you came from. It's just that they understood that we're being oppressed, and
yeah,
this isn't right.
right,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I think it was he pointed out the fact that they were I forgot what the slaves, and then there was this who I forgot what they were called. The people that the
The
slave.
indentured servants,
It
or
was like no, it was like the white people that were out in the field watching over.
like the
You know
slave
what I'm saying?
masters.
Plantation, Matt.
I don't know what they were, but it was
Uh,
basically he was saying like they had their struggles too. It was just the fact that they were white,
mhm.
so they at least got a step. They had that little step
Yep.
above,
Yep.
but we
Sure.
still can't. But we still need to come together because at
Yes.
the end of the
Mm.
day, we were all in a way serving the master.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So we need to
Mhm.
come together and fight the master or fight the bigger issue. You know what I'm saying? So I just appreciated that.
Mhm.
Sir.
But and also there was I'm sorry. Did you have something to say, Megan?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. There was the quote from Frederick Douglass,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciated that because I've heard Frederick Douglass's name, but I didn't necessarily know specifically like all the details of him. But this speaks a lot to me. The quote, in a sense of where he kind of challenged Christianity in America, and this is he was a former slave.
Yep.
Like
Right,
he escaped
right.
being slavery, and for him to escape slavery and still have an understanding of a relationship with God, to know like y'all not serving Christ, like y'all not doing Christ Christianity, y'all doing American
Mm-hmm.
Christianity or the Christianity that y'all want to do.
Mhm.
But I understand that Christ himself is for justice. Christ himself is for something else, and y'all just using it as a weapon.
Yep.
You know, and I guess I
Right.
just appreciate seeing somebody that came from that and willing to be able to see a difference between how white people in America at the time were using Jesus' name and who Jesus really was.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and
He called it hypocritical Christianity,
Right.
or yeah,
Mhm.
in the quote. And so it's literally point blank period. Like he's like, how you not gonna love your brothers and sisters? Like you
Right.
want to hold them as slaves and make them work for you, but
Right.
that's not what God intended as He made humans. He's like,
Right.
no, like the only person that owns us is God, like nobody else. And so like when Frederick Douglass said that quote, I was like, he was speaking real truth, and it's like you have really misconstrued what God has told us how to live and how to treat one another.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's
Yeah,
real.
and I was thinking back to even back in Genesis when God created us, He
Yeah.
created us in His image, and I think really the root of it is just upholding human dignity,
Yeah.
regardless of race too. But like, I think especially what Frederick Douglass was talking about during that time is, like you said, Derek, are we following Christianity of our culture, or are we following Christianity like Jesus did?
Yeah.
And that's real, and I think that like we'll explore some more later. Like Jesus really did honor like human dignity, and
Right.
he came, in a human form so he could understand our plights, our issues,
Right.
and we have that like connection to God because of that,
Right.
which is like beautiful. And we've talked about it here too. I know Pastor Brian has taught about this, but the fact that racism isn't just like a worldly issue, but it's like a spiritual issue.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yes.
No, that's real.
Yes.
And yeah, that's real.
Mhm.
No. No. It's just Jesus came as a servant.
Yeah.
And I think that's the deep aspect. Is like we man tries to pull and use and abuse the power of Jesus, and then they'll it's like they'll try to take out the servant aspect. Like he literally came to serve us, or not to serve us, but to serve.
Mhm.
To serve humanity and to show what God's love is really about. It's not about all this upholding rules and regulations. It's about serving and loving people that are in need. You get what I'm saying? And that's what he did. And even when he got to the point where he was on the cross, he was like, forgive them. They don't know what they do. Like, I know what I'm here for. And I'm here to serve people and bring justice to whoever I can bring justice to. And
Right.
for us to kind of wipe that out and then just pull the power out of it and use the power as a weapon, I think is like that's where we need to fix ourselves, especially in America.
Mhm.
Is like
Yeah.
Jesus was about serving. Jesus was about humility. And if you don't have that service for people, if you don't have that care for people, then your relationship with God can be questioned.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, what kind of relationship you have with God if you're not willing to care and serve people, whether they look like you or not?
Yeah.
Because like you said, the quote earlier from Keisha was like treating people like they're not image bearers of God. Like you said,
Right.
like you
Yeah.
said, in the
Yeah.
sense of
Yeah.
everybody was born in the image of God.
God.
You can't just treat somebody
Mhm.
because you think that they don't deserve it, or because
Right.
you think they're not worthy. Like everybody that has life, that has breath,
Right.
has an opportunity to bear God's image and to bear God's light and to, you know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm. That's real. That's true.
That's very true.
but before there was another part I wanted to go in, but I wanted to read the scripture first, Matthew 16:24, because it kind of it's challenging. You know what I'm saying? And it's definitely something that we could use to talk about what's been going on. Does anybody want to read that? Matthew 16:24.
Well, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If any one of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross and follow me.
Yeah. So what they were talking about was letting go of personal control and to take risks after God. And then the question that they posed was, what about this verse is scary or uncomfortable to you?
It's the unknown, man, for me. Like,
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah.
you don't, and I mean, at this point in my walk with Christ, like, I do kind of know, like,
Yeah.
all the good things has shown me to this point. So, but yeah, for people that may be new to faith and new to, leaning in on God, it could be scary because
Right.
they're like, all right, man, if I give up, this habit, or if I stop talking to that person, or if I quit this job because I'm not like, they're starting to think about what is next, like what's going to happen. And so I think, yeah, really, especially turning yourself away from old like habits, especially that are bad. I think that is the scary part because you're like, I'm so used to, or I'm comfortable with doing that. But like we just said, how like it's good to be uncomfortable
Right.
when you start
Yeah.
to do the other things, because
Right.
I think that's a part of God calling you to do something new and do something better, I would
Right.
say, than what you're used to. So I mean, and that's just helping you grow, in your relationship, and really, um, gaining more trust with God, and He's gonna have your back at the end of the day. And it's just you got to take one step after another and really not, try to stop at that point.
All right.
Done. I'm done.
No, you good.
I think for me the part that sticks out to me in this verse is the take up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
But those two combined, like it's not just not just taking up your cross and like carrying that weight, but it's also carrying that weight while you follow Jesus.
right.
And like I
That's
mean,
good.
even myself, I don't like personally, I don't wear a lot of like cross jewelry. I don't even know if I have like one cross necklace, and I like don't wear like a lot of like crosses on my like clothing and things, just because like internally for me, like the cross is such a heavy symbol
Right.
that it just like it
Representation.
pains me. Like
Yeah,
it like
no.
I feel the weight of the cross
Yeah.
when it's around me, when I see it. And so like to think on that, and to think of what would it be like to really bear like the weight of the world, and the weight of like not just my sin but like other people's sin, and then like the things that I don't have forgiveness for, or the
Right.
things that I'm just like peeved about, and to do that but also follow Jesus. Like that's like wow, like that's a lot. And that's that's what He calls us to, and it's hard, and
Definitely.
but it's worth it. Obviously.
Right.
Yes.
From my experience, and just living in that thought is humbling. Like it's
Right.
nothing but humbling.
Right.
for
I mean, it to me, like the way you pointed out, it kind of shows like you can't just pick it up and then just not work
Mhm.
it. You get what I'm saying? Like you got to
Yeah.
move with it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like weightlifting in a sense.
Mhm.
It's like you can't just
It's not a deadlift. It's
yeah, like you gotta work it. You know what I'm saying? That's what builds the muscle. That's what makes you stronger, is that you pick it up and you work with it.
keep
You walk
going.
with it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? When you bench press, you gotta do the reps.
Yeah.
You know, like
Not just one, not
just
one.
holding it up there.
That don't
You
do
know what I'm saying?
nothing.
It's like it's not gonna do much. It's just gonna wear you out.
Right.
But when you're actually
Mhm.
working it and you pick it up and you're like, you know what, I'm working, and that's what working God is.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? We're not working to get God's approval, or to get His, or to earn His love. We've already got it. So we take
Yeah.
His love, we put it on our backs, and we work it, and we grow, and we mature.
Mhm.
But for me, the uncomfortable thing about that, especially growing up as a white man, is just the comfort. Like you said, is the comfort, because growing up, the way I grew is like the way I seen it was I'm growing up to get to go after comfort, to go after more comfort, to go after
Sure.
more comfortability,
Yeah.
to like
Security.
I want to
Right, yeah,
security. I
yeah.
want to live a comfortable life in a sense. But now as I'm getting older, I realize how much walking with God is uncomfortable, and it's really the opposite of what I thought I was supposed to be seeking after.
Right.
Because like we seek so much after comfort that we never challenge ourselves. We never put ourselves in uncomfortable situations to be able to learn, to be able to grow. And that's what I've done. Tried my best to do as an adult is try my best to take advantage of those uncomfortable situations, and to challenge myself, to challenge how I was raised, to challenge how I see the country, to challenge how I see Christianity. You know what I'm saying? And really to grow closer to God, and also grow as a human, so I can better serve the people around me, regardless of, what they look like.
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
by being in uncomfortable situations, once you've been through it, you come to a realization that like this was a benefit
Yeah.
for me. Like
Right.
it might have not looked like that coming into the situation,
Yeah.
but once it's done, it's like, wow, like God provided you clarity
Yeah.
in that moment, and now you're like, wow, I needed this.
Yeah.
And hopefully that encourages, like, anybody who's in an uncomfortable, situation to continuously to trust God when he puts you in another one,
Right.
because it ain't just
Right.
gonna be one. So exactly, you do it again, and you're like, instead of being nervous or scared, it's more so like, all right, God, he's like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to ride, let's go,
Right.
where are you
Mhm.
taking me, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold on to you.
Right. And I'm thinking even as we are, honoring and celebrating like Black History Month, a lot of people are learning like new Black history, right?
Yeah.
Like things they never learned in school or things that,
Definitely.
are just like cropping up more and more. And I think about, Derek, as you had gone through kind of this self-reflection of, I'm uncomfortable, and like you see it as a challenge. Like I want to live in this uncomfortable, feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that piece of like self-reflection, like why am I uncomfortable with this?
Right. Right.
And coming to understand, what that tension is about, and bringing that to the foot of God. Like,
Right.
God, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why people are upset about, whatever's happening in the world. I don't understand, their experiences, because I've never lived that.
Mm-hmm.
God, how to, just asking God for compassion and,
Right.
just empathy for other people.
That's right.
So I think that's, kind of a first step for a lot of people.
You gotta be willing to embrace somebody else's suffering in a
Yeah.
sense. Even though I, as a white man, will never know what it's like to be brown skinned in this country. You know what I'm saying? I am going to try my best to have those conversations, to learn from the people around me, and to
Mhm.
put myself in those uncomfortable situations. That I've lived in neighborhoods that people wouldn't expect to see somebody that looks like me in. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I've married somebody that doesn't look like me. I didn't marry just because that was a thing, but it just so happens. And now I wake up with that daily challenge every day, is to, okay, what can I learn? How can I grow? Because I don't want to be sitting here holding on to what I think is right, but there's somebody next to me that's struggling with so many different things that's going on just because of their skin color, just because the way that they look. You get what I'm saying? And so I've put myself. You got to take advantage of those situations and try your best to challenge yourself, because we can't get it's a mind battle to just turn and just look at the comfort and be like, you know what, I'm gonna just go to that instead. I'm gonna just lean on. I don't feel like being challenged today. But you got to continue like this walk with God, this walk as a white person in America. You know what I'm saying? To challenge yourself to understand other people's struggle, because the more we only know God in the fellowship of his suffering through Jesus. You get what I'm saying? So if you're
Right.
not willing to fellowship in suffering in what people have gone through, then you're really not trying to grow closer to God, because you're so busy sitting in your comfort. Where is God in your comfort?
Right.
Where is God in okay, well, I'm just going to ignore all that. I don't have to deal with it. I'm white. I can just act like it's not there. But where is God in that?
Right.
I feel like God is in the uncomfortable comfortable places. He's in those places where you challenge yourself, because that's how we know him. Jesus went through the ultimate suffering. So if we don't put ourselves out there, if we don't take certain risks
Right.
on behalf of the people around us, it's like that goes to the scripture where it says, John 15:13, there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I need to be able to look at these people, look at people around me, and whoever it is, and be like, you know what? I care about what you've been through. And
Yeah.
because I open my heart to that, I now am fellowshipping in Christ's suffering, because I'm open to learn, I'm open to grow. And now it allows me the chance to grow closer with God, because in caring for God, in caring for people, I'm caring for God.
Exactly.
Right.
I'll say briefly is that action greater than intent all day. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, and as like people might feel bad, and but that doesn't do anything for anybody.
Right.
By feeling bad, by actually making an effort to educate yourself,
Yeah.
learn, because I hear it all the time. Oh, what can we do to help the situation? To do our part, and I'm like, well, you gotta seek, and really want to know the history of what's been going on and why black people have been oppressed and what has led to those things and why other black historical figures are so popular these days and what they had to do and to help other black Americans out. And so I think when you put that actual intention or like action to actually learn and educate and maybe ask questions, so you just don't, like you said, you just don't sit there and think, oh, maybe this is the way it's supposed to be. Like, no, ask questions and really want to be involved and see how you can really make a difference rather than just sitting back and having your own opinions or viewpoints, because that may not be true whatsoever. And you need to hear it from people of color that can probably tell you something that you've not heard of or never experienced. And then by being receptive to that, it could hopefully change your perception, or at least if anything, you understand now that because of, I can't give a specific example at the time, but because you understand that person and what that event or whatever may have happened to them, you can now understand that, okay, it's because I'm like, obviously I'm white, so I never got to experience that, but now you learn that, okay, because they're a different color, they went through this, but I understand that and I know now.
Right. And I think to your point and both your points is like, to get to that level of passion to get into action, like it takes the time to both learn intellectually like what's going on and to be vulnerable with people enough to really listen to their stories and understand them, because if you just keep like every relationship surface level, you'll never understand the sufferings that different people groups have gone through. You'll never understand the plights that they face daily. And I think the more that we, cultivate this like multi-ethnic family, this church that we have, which we're so blessed to have, the more we're able to do that, and the more we're able to move past beyond feeling guilty or feeling upset and asking like, the people of color what to do. Instead, we can say, okay, like from what I know of what you're dealing with, like I think this will help you, like, and like just do it. And even like in a slight pivot, something I've been lamenting lately is that there's been a lot of like Asian American attacks going on, like especially in California, and throughout like this pandemic, there's been a lot of anti-China rhetoric, anti-Chinese, anyone who looks Chinese kind of rhetoric, and just like attacks out of nowhere. And I'm just like asking God, like why, God? Like why, God, and why is there so much hate? And just also thinking about if I saw some hate going on to anybody, like would I fall into like psychologists call the bystander effect, where I'm just kind of watching it and like not sure what to do, and so I just stay inactive, or like what will propel me to move past that and to say, I'm gonna stand in for this person, I'm gonna help this person who's in need, I'm gonna intervene somehow, and so I've just been like processing, what does that look like, God? What does it look like to move beyond the headspace and into like moving my feet, moving my hands.
Sounds like you're on the way to be a righteous revolutionary right here. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. No, I think that's, to speak to, like, the greatest relationships that I have in my life had the most conflict. The people that I'm closest to in my life are the ones where I had some serious conversations. I had some serious back and forth. Like it was sometimes it was painful.
Yeah.
But because you were willing to go through, because both sides within just from my situation with those people that I'm close to, whether it be my wife, whether it be a couple of my good friends, the fact that those things in me were challenged, whether we're speaking to injustice or we're just speaking to ourselves personally. Yeah. Like if you're always trying to run away from things and you're never trying to face things, then you'll never grow.
Never.
You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to, America, that's the issue, is that everybody, or a good majority of people, are too busy trying to run, that they're not facing it. They're not allowing it to challenge them because they're scared of being challenged and they don't want to be challenged. Like certain people only have certain conversations with certain people, but like sometimes you got to get into, if I would have never, spoke up on certain things, I never would have learned. You know what I'm saying? If I would have never humiliated myself in certain aspects, because as a white man, I have humiliated myself. You know what I'm saying? And been like, dang, that probably was stupid. I probably shouldn't have said that. But because I said it, I got challenged.
Yep.
Right.
Because I got challenged and I didn't run, you know what I'm saying? Or I chose to try my best to embrace it. Yep. I now have grown and I have understood. You know what I'm saying? So we have, within our relationships, and you have to be willing to build relationships with people. And whether it's a marriage, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a an employee, whatever it might be, whatever's like, it's never gonna grow if there's not any conflict at all. So if you got to expect some sort of conflict, you got to be prepared to be uncomfortable, because it's like what how can we grow if those things don't happen, if we don't get through that hard stuff. You get what I'm saying? Because me and my wife can literally just sit down and be ourselves around each other. But it didn't start that way. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't as educated, as I am now at the beginning of our relationship. So things I would say would make her uncomfortable. Things she would say would make me uncomfortable, because we'd be willing to sit and talk about it. Now we can just be ourselves. Now I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to hear her out. I'm willing to see her struggle, and I would be doing an injustice to her and to my children. I got a lot of children. I would be doing an injustice to a whole group of people, talking about my children, if I wasn't willing to understand what my wife goes through on a daily basis for their benefit. Because if I just ignore it and just be like, well, I'm white, whatever, it's I don't know what that is. To ignore it, I'm doing them an injustice, because they're not just on my side, not on my side in a sense, but they're not just white. You know what I'm saying? So I have to understand, and I have to be, if I'm open to understand, then it helps them mature as people. It helps them grow as better people. It helps them actually be better, righteous revolutionaries in their life, because then they actually know what walking with God is, by watching their mom and their dad interact with each other and not be scared to challenge each other or to be uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? So,
and you brought up a good point, because you talked about how you not being like ignorant to like what's going on, like, or at least with your wife, and obviously instilling that in your children. Kids are great, by the way. And it makes me think, like, from last summer, it's been more talked about now, which is good. It's better late than never, about social injustice and police reform and all of these things. And where the place where I work at, we've had these, call them brave space discussions. And you talked about being cool with getting uncomfortable and having these conversations. So this deals with the students and our staff as well. And we kind of just lay it out there, and we let them express their concerns as far as what they see. If there's some things that aren't, it doesn't maybe really reflect the core values of the place I work at and everything. And so it's really good, because it gave these students, this is your opportunity not to shy away. And they've been able to step up and really say some deep stuff that makes us reflect on a staff and be like, oh wow, like maybe we have been going about things a different way, and like this is how they are really feeling about it. And so I think it's really great to have these discussions, and like you said, build relationships with whoever it may be, because it really leads to like effective conversation, and then it prompts resolution, or at least to start thinking about what we can do. So I'm like I was like excited when we started this, and to see our students not hold back was the best part. I was like, to see them really be engaged in this and like really express like, hey, this is how we're feeling. And I'm like, man, this is great. And now we have something to work with, because we understand what's going on, and this is what we can do now. So, and it was just so many things that like I've heard, and some shocked me, and I was like, wow, okay, this is like, there is a problem. And so I'm sure like a lot of places just probably across the world now are having these conversations, and all these more advocacy groups are probably popping up now, and but I'm like, I'm just thankful that it's being addressed, and they're not shying away from it now. It's like I said, better late than never, but it's here, it's now. And I think this is going to be something that is going to just continuously be a practice moving forward, no matter what kind of industry you're in, and no matter what kind of groups. I think it'll always be like a topic of conversation.
And I think like that goes back to how our relationship with Jesus is too, right? Like Jesus like came for justice and equity just as much as he came for our sins and other things that he proposed in his ministry. And like, to ignore that piece of Jesus, you're just missing so much. You're missing I think what we've been describing is like what it really means to love your neighbor. Like it says in that Matthew verse, like love God and then love your neighbor, and those are the commandments.
Right.
And like that's what loving your neighbor is about. Like, not just loving them because they're proximity to you or because they're like you, but loving them regardless of their difference and where the tensions exist.
Yeah, I think we kind of get it twisted when we look at the Ten Commandments. In a sense, I think that's why Jesus said what he said. He was like, it all hangs on loving God
You
Yeah.
gotta start one. Yeah.
and loving your neighbor.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the rest of the commandments are telling you not to go against your neighbor. In a sense, it's all how you treat other people, how you're serving other people.
Mhm.
In a sense, so it's like regardless of all that extra stuff, we don't have to worry about all this extra stuff as long as you're loving God and you're loving people.
Yep.
Because your heart for God now turns into a heart for people. So I have the heart to not want to sin against people. You get what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
like,
Right.
and I think that's and then to go on to what you were talking about, I think they mentioned Genesis 18 and 9, and then I think in 19 it says, keep the way of the Lord to do righteousness and justice. And it's speaking of Abraham. And
Yeah.
like that's a part of God's ways is
Mhm.
righteousness and justice.
Yeah.
Like a part of who God is justice for people. So we have to be willing to accept things into our life that challenge us so that we can continue to grow, because it's like that's what I face every day with my kids, with my wife. Is a challenge, and I appreciate that. But I know there's plenty of people who are in an all white relationship, an all white family, and they just choose to stay where they are and not challenge themselves or find
Mhm.
anybody that's different in their life. Like they try to create this level of comfort,
Sure.
but they never find a way. Like how can I challenge myself? How can I actually grow? How can I actually learn? Because they feel like what they're doing is right, and nothing around them holds them accountable.
Right.
You have
Right.
to have accountability pieces in your life.
Right. You have to have those brave places.
Right,
those
like
safe
exactly
places.
what you were saying. You
Yeah.
have
Yep.
to have those places where there are people holding you accountable for your actions, holding you
Yeah.
accountable for what you say. So now you can mature and now you can grow and you can better serve people.
Exactly.
You know.
Mhm.
Very true.
So y'all good?
Think I am.
Yeah.
I think I am. Yeah.
Mm.
Just thinking about different things, and like you put your your shoes in like Jesus's, and to think that he carried out this mission
Mm-hmm.
to take on the sins of a lot of people.
Right.
And I think about like, man, like you mentioned about like wearing the cross and how heavy that is. I just think about him carrying the cross, and like he was 10 toes down. Jesus is
Yeah.
so awesome and so tough to like really think about. You saw what he did for us, and it's like, are you even capable of doing just an ounce of that, like with the people that you can converse with on a daily,
Right.
like to really like love them and not hold anything against them if they've done you wrong or anything like that. And
Right.
it goes into that Corinthians verse about what love is, and it's
Right.
like you think about what Jesus did for us, and knowing all the sins that we have already committed and all the sins that we're going to commit, and he didn't change up, he didn't switch up on us, man. And it's like, could you, when you look at yourself, are you able to do that for somebody,
Right.
or several somebodies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always seen that verse. I know it's used a lot at like weddings and marriage and things. But I
They be
always found it-
lying, probably. No, I'm
found it-
kidding.
I always found it funny because I've always seen it as it's the verse about the church and our relationship to God. Like,
Mhm.
like can we love? Like, do we love like God loved? And
Yep.
Mhm.
and that's real. It's like, can we love each other with the grace of God?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot.
And I think that even to speak to you talking about the cross, and I think what was most interesting is that he wasn't the only one on the cross at that time.
Nope.
Like there were, it speaks to there being two people on a cross with him, and it shows two people that live lives that that weren't the best type. They were thieves. They were, what I'm saying, they were up there because they weren't living the best life. You get what I'm saying? And that, but it was the difference in the mindset, the
Yeah.
difference in the perspective. And
Yeah.
for us as people in this country, the perspective is what matters. You know what I'm saying? So everybody out there, I just want you to take this moment to challenge your perspective, because there was one man on one side that was rude to Jesus and felt entitled to come at him and say, get us up off, if you're so powerful, get us up off this cross. And the other one was like, look here, I don't know what your problem is, but I know what I've done wrong. He was willing to acknowledge what he did wrong. We have to be willing to acknowledge
Right.
what we've done and humble ourselves before God and be like, look, God, I just want to be with you. So acknowledge yourself, because then he'll start to show you those things in your life that you need to start. You can start changing. You can start developing. You can start maturing, so you can better serve those people, because that's the heart that we're supposed to have. The willingness to acknowledge our faults, give them to God, and then move on and grow and be in this paradise with God, in serving people and in giving people the justice that they need. So everybody out there, we love y'all. We appreciate you watching this. We hope that something was said that was a blessing to you. If you want to keep on supporting the Rewind and City of Light Church, check out the link below. But everybody out there, be blessed. And I just pray that y'all have a good rest of your day and a good night.
See ya.
Thank you.